Good Friday morning, friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Finding God in the Dark with RevEv and PD. You'll notice that RevEv is not here today. He's had some challenges come up and wasn't able to record, so next week we will be discussing The Godfather. This week, I want to talk to you about a film that I watched on Netflix. Now, you might remember a couple of weeks ago, Evan and I talked about Akira, which is a Japanese animation by, I don't even remember the director at this point, but and we both enjoyed that. Well, I'm kind of a big fan of the anime genre, and so this film came across my Netflix feed, and it's a new edition on Netflix, and it piqued my attention. So I thought I'd give it a look and then talk to you a little bit about it. The film's called Suzume. It's directed by Makoto Shinkai. And if you're a fan of anime, you might know him for other films. One notably that's been popular recently was called Your Name. I believe that was nominated for an Academy Award. I don't remember if it won or not, but I do know it was nominated. It's basically the story of a 17-year-old girl who is living with her aunt because her mother passed away when she was 4. 4? So she's 16. No, her aunt passed away when she was... Her mother passed away when she was 4. She's now 16, so it's been 12 years since her mother passed. And how she gets tied up into some... the spiritual things that are happening that a lot of people don't see, but she has the ability to see. It involves a lot of Japanese mythology, sort of these gods and demons and this multiversal sort of, if you're a Marvel fan, that term will ring true with you. And it's also sort of a road movie, and it's sort of a romance, and you might think, I mean, when it's got all of this stuff going for it, that it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be terrible. Like, how can that be entertaining? Well, I had to say, first off, gorgeously animated, really, really just captivating visuals. The music is just carries the story along, is really well done. It's a moving story, very emotional story about hope and healing and recovery from grief and loss at its core, because our main character, Suzume, is on this journey with this man that she, by the end of the film, there's a romantic relationship there. It doesn't start out that way, but by the end of the film, but it's also about her coming to terms with the loss of her mother and the grief that she has carried for 12 years over that, and what it's done to her relationship with her aunt, who is her mother's sister, who has been taking care of her, and how that's resolved as well. It really is a moving story, kind of wrapped in almost this Stranger Things-esque veneer, if you will. There's this whole storyline about the underworld. I don't think they call it that, but very similar to the Upside Down in Stranger Things, if you've seen it. I really actually thoroughly enjoyed the film. I found it just drawing me in and carrying me along. I've read some reviews about it, and some folks didn't. They felt like it was just sort of event, and there was no real carry through storyline. I didn't see that. It was definitely, there was a storyline, and I felt like it was a good storyline. This is one of those things in my mind. It's so missing from a lot of today's popular films, mainstream films, is a good story. If you tell me a good story, you've got my attention. And this is a good story. I think it's worth watching. There's really nothing in it that's objectionable, or there's no violence or cartoony type of violence maybe, but no foul language, no nudity, or anything like that. It really is a fairly wholesome story. It does have some sort of deep psychological stuff as far as, again, grief and healing and that sort of thing. But ultimately, I think the big message in this story is about hope. And that's a message that any one of us, I think, could grasp onto. There's a passage in Isaiah chapter 43, verses 1 and 2, and I'm gonna read it from my phone, so I have it. But it says, "But now thus says the Lord, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you." This idea, I think, permeates the film. This idea of God providing for us. And there's a companion in the film that's not just this romantic interest for Suzume. There's another companion in the film that we find out is this same sort of almost Christ figure, self-sacrificial Christ figure. And in the end, sacrifices themselves to stop the disasters that are happening across Japan that Suzume and her companion Sota have been trying to stop all along. They've been closing these sort of interdimensional doors to try and keep these bad things from getting into the world. And in the end, this other companion becomes the sacrifice that closes the door permanently, so to speak. Again, that's a Christ figure. You've probably heard me talk about this before. I think it occurs in a lot of films. The Matrix is one that jumps right to my mind. Neo is a Christ figure in The Matrix, and in this film there is that same. I don't want to give it away in case you see the film, but there is that sort of Christ figure that becomes this voluntary sacrifice to save the world. It's a good film. It really is. I was pleasantly surprised with it because I wasn't sure what to expect. I had not seen it. I love Japanese anime. Evan and I have talked about it a little bit, but this opens up a whole new director and their stuff for me to look into. So I was really pleased with that. So if you've got Netflix and you're interested in sort of a captivating story and you don't mind, I know some people, it's a cartoon. Well, it's not. I mean, Japan really, their animation can be a lot more adult themed, and this is one of those. It's not really a kids movie. I mean, kids could watch it and they'd probably enjoy it, but I think the depth of meaning in this film is much more adult and much more mainstream for adults. So it's worth it from that perspective. And as far as next week, Evan and I will be recording, and we will be talking about The Godfather. He did give me a little heads up. He hasn't quite finished the movie yet as I'm recording this. But he said he hadn't seen it before. He said, well, you understand why it's been called one of the best films ever made. He's right. It is. And I hope you tune in next week for that. In the meantime, friends, just continue looking for God in the dark. Keep finding God in the dark. And we will see you all next week. Take care and God bless. Bye.